Welcome, everybody, to the G7 Growth Conference. I mean, are we utilizing technology or what? With the accessibility now, we are able to reach people and do more expediently and more proficiently. You get to dive into insights, concepts, and dimensions right from your home. And we're so honored to bring you these growth series. We're going to do a few of these. All my friends from Bishop T.D. Jakes to Bill Winston, you know, I'm going to invite them on just like I have Dr. Duplantis, but he is the first fruit offering for you guys. And I want you guys to be so blessed and rich. Now, listen, as we go through this, there may be a few technical glitches because we are stepping out in faith and using this as a new means to communicate and bring light and hope to the gospel, to the world, and to you business people, you know, who are feeling a passion and a longing really to take your life to the next level, to your organizations, to your next level. As we get ready to bring on Dr. Jesse, and I'm sure some of you guys can see him, they're getting his mic all set up. I want you to know that we are recording here live in the Silicon Valley, home of Microsoft, Hewlett and Packard. We're going to be talking about partnerships today, how the most lucrative industries in the world are those who have chosen wise partners. Instagram, right down the street, got acquired for $19 billion. It's unbelievable, the economical growth that we've seen in even the last 5 years, not to mention the last decade. Combined total assets, including the technology we're using right now, ladies and gentlemen, is over $3 trillion. Isn't that unbelievable, Jesse? $3 trillion in assets, just utilizing the technology now, yeah, you know?
It's the most amazing thing. And it's
unbelievable.
And I believe I got a reason for it. These are very smart people, you know, but God bless the United States of America, and he put some geniuses in this country, and they've used it to help mankind, and it's so exciting about it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, before we get you on the hot seat, and I want to get you talking to the people, I want to lay a platform here about the congruency of thought.
Okay.
In that Dr. Duplantis and I are not hosting these conferences, and specifically this event, just for sole means of creating more independent wealth.
Right.
Right, Jesse?
That's
Big
correct.
Thinking is an element of changing your life to do more.
Right.
So, you know, you don't need to think big to make more money. You think big to be a better husband, a better wife,
right,
be a better parent, be a better pastor. But I want to say this before we begin. We've got a gift for all of you. I'm going to be doing a random drawing. We're going to sow some seed and give $1,000 gift certificates for one of my brain score assessments. I got to show you this, Jesse. You're going to love this. But your name will be pulled at the end of the conference. So make sure you're also going to get a couple of these goodies. Look at this book that I got here. Is that better light? Advancing in Life. Jesse, yeah. I love this book. I love this book.
Thank you.
I want to talk about this because when a man publishes from revelation to inspiration to manifestation, I know you're hearing something. Amen. Very powerful. The other one I love that I wanted to show is The Everyday Visionary. If you haven't gotten this book, you're a business owner, a pastor, this is where everybody starts. Make sure you grab this. And then if you're leading small groups at home or large groups, this one, I didn't get a chance to finish reading this, but I love this word down here. My personal confidence building principles.
Yes, sir.
You know, the scripture says we have need of confidence, which I'm going to be talking about in our second series when I present after Brother Duplantis is done. We're going to be strictly talking about, and Jesse, you didn't know this, or you may have known this, the number one element to executive development and success is confidence.
Yes, sir.
That's what all of the experts have said. So let's get right into this, and let me lay a foundation here. Agendas and principles for generating big business. And this is the rise of the servant leader, as I wrote down, where you are a person now dedicated to going beyond work and into a calling to accelerate others. That's the difference. And that takes intelligence.
Right.
And ladies and gentlemen, sitting here before me is a man that has applied intelligence. You know, not only born a Cajun boy, but he was born into abstract poverty.
That's right.
Became a rock star at a very early age and had all of the temptations that any one of us had, including me, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. We haven't talked much about that, Jesse, but I really admire you on the trajectory of your growth. You've used intelligence, not just faith, and not just hard work, because you have to have a belief system, and a belief system that's tied to principles. And this is what this man has done. And this is why he's grabbed my heart from a very early age. And it's not just winning the will to win, because the will to win is governed by principles. And I want you to put on a very intuitive ear to hear not just the size of his enterprises, ladies and gentlemen, but the principles that has governed his life. Dr. Duplantis, we're official. Thank you, sir, for being here. I'm so honored.
Well, it's such an honor and a pleasure, and I thank you for inviting me on today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's start in the beginning. In fact, I have a cute little story. 25 years ago, I gave my life to Christ, about 26, 27. And there's two men that came into my life. Forgive me, because this brings tears to my eyes. This is how it all began. Dr. Jerry Seville and you. You were the first two men of God that God used to come into my life. And the first teaching that I saw as I was in Rhema Bible College, a lot of people don't know, there's a Kardashian who went through Brother Hagin's courses. God takes the foolish things of the world to dumbfound the wise. And I saw Close Encounters of the God Kind, Jesse. Mm-hmm. And being raised a Catholic boy, this changed my life. I call it from my Jesus to Jesse experience.
Praise the
and
Lord.
We haven't talked about this, but I've been waiting to share this publicly. And then, of course, I met Dr. Seville, and he gave me a piece of information that hopefully we'll have him on the show one time to talk about it. But you both were pivotal, and I spoke out of my mouth. One day, this man will mentor me. And Jesse, you've become such an asset in Tia and I's life, and you have become, and I know we don't talk every day, and we don't need to. I'm not a high maintenance guy, but there have been some pivotal things that I wanted to open up and let everybody know that if they've changed my life and increased the span of our executive coaching company and our ministry, all the principles that you've taught, then they're going to do it for them. And I just wanted to formally thank you publicly.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you to say that. I've made up my mind, Ron, that nothing we can't do because we've been made in the image of God. You see, that's the whole thing. So when people begin to deny God, they actually deny themselves. Now, if you know, when you deny God and say God doesn't exist, then you don't exist. See, because you were made in his image and his likeness, and people need to understand that. That means if we're made in his image and his likeness, then we ought to be able to think like him. And if we're able to think like him, then we're able to produce like him. Now, I know a lot of wealthy people, but I've never met anybody wealthier than God.
No way. Ain't happening. In fact, let's talk about that, because, you know, you talk a lot about your childhood. I must have listened to Close Encounters of the God Kind, Jesse, at least 100 times. I mean, I wore it out. But you, and I've heard you talk about your childhood, your beautiful mother, and even respect for your father. And I've heard you mention it many times. Talk to us about how your environment as a child impacted you and affected your life today.
Well, I realized, you know, we were raised very poor. What I got for Christmas was an apple or an orange or a piece of candy, and I was glad to get it. Don't misunderstand me. But I realized that I could see my mother and father, especially my mom, was never a greedy person, but never could have anything. Now, at a very early age, and when I say 4 and 5 years old, I realized that poverty was a curse.
Wow.
And I refused to partner with poverty. I will not partner with poverty because it's a curse, you see. Now, prosperity, what people think is money. Let me tell you something about prosperity. Money is only a small byproduct of prosperity.
That's true.
You know, the Bible said in 3 John, "Do, beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health." So I don't care how much money you got. If you're sick as a junkyard dog, you can't go nowhere. Now, watch this. You may be healthy as an ox, but if you ain't got no money, you can't go nowhere neither. See, so they have to work together. So that's what happened to me. I realized at a very early age, I wanted to be a blessing to my mother, but how could I do it? Then I made up my mind that I would never let my surroundings get in me, that I would create my world and walk in it. Now, I used to think that way as a 5 or 6 year old boy. Now, a lot of people don't understand that, Ron, especially some of my family say, "Who do you think you are? You think you're better than us?" I said, "It has nothing to do with being better than anybody. It has to do with destiny and destination. What is your destiny? And then where's your destination?" Because if you don't know where you're going, Ron, you're not going to know when you get there.
Okay, now hold it right there because that is so powerful. That is, I don't want to, you're already prophesying. See this, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take notes what he's saying here and not just I'm training, part of my office in the body of Christ is to get the Christianese,
right,
for them to put them aside and get application moving here.
Right.
Because we deal a lot with the promise, but we don't talk about the process.
Right.
Now, let's talk about that, Jesse, because you're a man of great wisdom and intelligence. And I say that through observation. Mm-hmm. I'm going to talk to you about a little bit later in the section. You won't hear this, but I'll send you a copy about neuroimaging, neuromirroring.
Right.
Science has now proven, Dr. Duplantis, that if I watch you and observe you, neurologically, my brain begins to develop new rhythms of application.
Right.
Almost the same way as a baseball player would practice hitting a ball out of the park. The practice of it would develop, but now they're showing I can just observe you.
Right.
Which is very powerful what St. Paul said. He said, observe me or recognize me, follow me as I follow Christ. Very powerful process. But for you, Doc, what was the single most critical challenge you had to overcome in your life? How did it shape your growth?
Okay, I really realized in my life that if I wanted to do something in my life, I had to believe in myself. See, if you don't believe in yourself, what makes you think you can convince other people to believe in you? What makes you think you can convince anybody to believe in your ideas? Because the most powerful and the most wonderful thing in the world today is an idea. Once you understand what an idea is, I mean, think about Steve Jobs. He's in a garage somewhere, and all of a sudden, he's thinking, wait a minute, Apple. I can do this and I can do that. Now, you're always going to have people saying you can't, but the Bible says you can do all things through Christ. See, it's through Christ with strength. Now, at that time, I didn't put God in the thing. So I got successful, but I never got as much success as it is once I began to understand God as a person instead of a religion. He never came to create Christianity. He came that we might know the Father, so that we would know who Christ is. Man brings religion. God brings personal fellowship and personal relationship. So I realized that at a very early age.
Now, so that's what you're saying was the most critical component to the success you're living in today.
Bar
none.
Bar none. Let me tell you something. Without God, I couldn't do what I do today because I had to learn to think like him. See, how does God think? What does God say? See, and when I began to realize it, and I learned it through this Bible. You see, now when I first got, I thought, no, this is
that manual right here.
Yeah, I said, that's religion. No. This is the Word of God. See, and in other words, if I want to know something about computers, and before Steve Jobs passed away, I would rather go talk to him. Why? Because he had an understanding of that, see? Well, God has an understanding of Ron Kardashian's life. And anyone watching this, he has an understanding. Now, he gives you an idea, an insight, and a concept. Now, and this is what I'm about to say, very, very important. You can lose motivation in life, but you must never lose momentum. You see, momentum is the key. Momentum is what's moving you. Now, motivation moves you toward that. Don't misunderstand me. But I've seen sometimes you get a little depressed because maybe a business deal didn't work right. And, the motivation went down. Oh, God, what I'm going to do. But you should never lose your momentum. Your momentum makes you who you are, puts you into destiny and destination. Am I preaching?
Now, did you learn this? Did you learn this from Dr. Thornburg? Because I've heard you mention him.
No, what I did was I realized as long as I lived in my environment, I would be a product of that environment. So I thought, you know what? I can change this environment. So I would tell my mama, this is what I'm going to do. Now, you know this. When I was 5 years old, in a two-bedroom trailer, I was watching Gone with the Wind. 5 years old. I don't know where we ever got that television. Didn't have that.
This is where you got the design for the staircase.
That's correct. And I saw, Scarlett O'Hara on the 12 Oaks when she won. And I thought, and when I saw that beautiful, that stairs, I turned to my mother and said this, Mama, I'm gonna build a house like the movies. She said, boy, you sleeping on the floor with your brother. You can't do that. See, there's always somebody telling you what you can't. What I love about God and his word, and listen to me if you're a business person, he'll tell you what you can do, and he'll get involved with you so you can do it. Whether it's in the business world, or in the ministry world or whatever world it's in. You see, you give him honor. He said, whoever honors me, I will honor them. Never thinking in my entire life, because I heard all my life, that if you're a Christian, you got to be poor. Well, Ron, when was Jesus poor? I hear that all the time. I mean, he had 12 full-time people on his staff. Some were married. He took care of them. He had 70 part-time that worked for the Jesus of Nazareth Evangelistic Association. Now, you don't gamble for rags. They gambled for his robe. Now, come on. I mean, let the elevator go to the top here. Come on. I mean, think. And let me tell you something to anybody watching today. If you don't like prosperity, you sure can't go to heaven, because that place is prosperous. You see what I'm saying?
You've been there. You've been there. You know.
Yes. So what happens, Ron, you have got to first believe in God, and then believe in yourself. And then say, what can I do? And you'll always have some doubts come in your mind, but doubt the doubts. See? All you got to do is doubt the doubts.
Yes.
You see?
Okay, let's get a little practical here, though, because this is where the church goes. Whoop.
Okay.
And even executives that I talk about. So for most people that don't know, Mr. Thornburg was a gentleman that you respected, was a very wealthy man in your city, right? That you honored and bought him lunch, and that began the new information. I want to bring out a principle here, and I want you to elaborate on it: the power of sound advice, mentorship, and accountability. Right. Because this began to build, if I'm correct in saying, your confidence, that was the trajectory.
Well,
elaborate.
Right. Okay. You don't see that anymore. Every drugstore used to have a soda fountain in it, where you'd get chocolate sodas and stuff. So they called you a soda jerk. Well, I was only 12, 13 years old, and he was the richest man in town. See, so he would come and get an ice cream. Now think about this. Ice cream was a nickel a scoop then. Can you believe it? A nickel a scoop. And when it went up to 10 cents, I said, we got to quit eating ice cream. Can't afford that.
Double price.
Yeah. So watch it. He would come in. So I looked at him, and his first name was Madison. And it wasn't Thornburg, it's Funderburg. Madison Funderburg. So I said, I want to know how you got where you are, and I'd love to take you out to dinner. And he looked at me, and he said, you want to take me out to dinner? Now, remember, I served him an ice cream scoop every day. I said, I'm going to take you to the finest restaurant. I want you to tell me how you got wealthy. Do you know he did it? I went to dinner. I brought him to the best restaurant I could think of it that day. It was a place called Savoy's. And I wanted the 7-course meal. And I sat there and I listened. Until today, Ron, I apply those principles. Because you see, this man wasn't confessing something. He was possessing something. And now he had to confess to get it, but he possessed. So from that day forward, I began to change and realize that good business principles works anywhere, any country, anytime, if you use it.
That's powerful. See, the power of mentorship.
Right.
One, ladies and gentlemen. So applying this. Number two, big thinkers have mentors. Big thinkers are accountable, and big thinkers get sound advice. Right. It's safe to say it, right?
Right.
And of course, then through the years, right?
Yeah, I got to say that he gave me a statement I've never forgot.
Yeah.
He said, write this down. Everybody, write this down. Never use the language of hesitation.
I love that. I heard you mention that on our video. Elaborate on that.
What it means, he said, when you have an idea, you don't hesitate. Because you see, if something doesn't work right away, doesn't mean you're a failure. You see, you just have to find another way to get to there. But if you hesitate to the point of stopping, see, that's what I mean by losing momentum. You hesitate so much you lose the momentum, then you're in trouble. You can motivate yourself all up, but if you're not moving, in other words, what I tell everybody in life, don't get on cruise control. You're moving, but no longer by your power.
I love it. I love it. You know, being an executive coach in Silicon Valley, I'm seeing these guys get funded for, I was with a VC the other day who has $1 billion fund. And he looked at me and he said, writing you $1 million check is okay, but I'd rather write you a $10 million check.
Right.
And I stand back and I said to myself, think about this concept of the dimension that he's thinking in. Mm-hmm. And then he furthered the statement by saying, Ron, it's important that you understand that in order to get to where you're going, there can be no plan B.
That's right. There you
Think
go.
about that, what you said. Am I right, Jesse?
Right. That is correct. See,
because you are fully persuaded.
Right. And you focus on your priority, you eliminate your confusion. What I loved about Star Trek, they'd always say this: go where no man has gone before. Now that caught my attention. And then what was the byproduct of go where no man gone before? Live long and prosper. You see what I'm trying to say?
Let's rewind. Let's rewind a little bit because I want to get you back down to foundation here.
Okay.
Because coaching pastors, coaching leaders, we've got 50% right now. The divorce rate has increased by 50%. More men, they said 80% of all youth pastors are on internet pornography. I hate even talking about this. They said right now that marriages are failing hand over foot. Let's first talk about this, and then I'm leading up to something with you and Kathy that I really want these pastors, senior level, this is executive level, even if you're not executive level, I want to parallel how Jesse's interior life has been the foundation for his exterior life.
Right.
Because everyone's working on the promise, but they don't do process. Tell me, Jesse, what 2 areas have you really had to watch yourself in?
I've had to watch myself not to allow people's doubt or people's opinions come into my life. So I knew what I was going to do. Now, I didn't know how to do all of it, but I had the framework. See what I'm saying? So even today, when I hire an employee, I hire to my weaknesses, not to my strengths.
Powerful.
You see, and that's the problem with a lot of people. They think they got to be the smartest person in the room. Not me. You see, I want to know, in other words, if I can do it, I don't need you. I can handle that. But if I don't know how to do that, let me hire someone that can tell me how to do this. So even though I am the CEO of this business, because this is a business, there's some things I don't know how to do. So I hire people to my weaknesses to help me. Now, once they tell me something, then I take that before the Lord. I pray about that. I'll give you an example. One of a vice president of a major bank came up to me and said, you need to invest in this. And he freaked out, Ron, when I said this. I said, well, let me go home and pray about it. Now, you see, these are financial gurus. These are Wall Street.
Higher dimension.
Yeah, these are hedge fund operators, okay? This is big money. This is Wall Street.
Yes.
In fact, I've had some people tell me, you need to quit that preaching and come on the street because you know how to work the street. I said, well, no, I'm not going to do that. But what happened was, I went home and prayed about it, and they wanted me to put some money of mine in 5 different areas. So they brought their financial gurus down. Real quickly, they said, you need to put your money here, 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 here. I prayed about it, and the Lord said, don't do anything. Do this. So when I came back to him, I said, the Lord said, don't do any of that. And I kind of freak him out, when you say the Lord. Because these are Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Columbia.
Totally.
These are smart people. I said, I'm going to put my money here, 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 here. And they looked at me like, they say gonna lose money. No, I'm not in the business of losing money. No.
Me too.
I don't do that. In 41 years of full-time ministry, I've never had a financial deficit. Why?
Powerful.
Because I know how to think. You see, you gotta know how to think. Well, 1 year passed. This was in January, and in December, they wanted to give me a fruit basket. I did some business with this major bank, for Christmas Eve.
Story. Tell it.
And to make a long story short, so anyway, he comes to the house, and this is what I love, This is the biggest fruit basket I ever saw in my life, about the size of a coffin. I'll tell you, that thing was huge. So I had to help him get the thing out of a truck, really, and bring it to my house. Make a long story short, he said, Reverend, when you told us last year, or actually in January, he said that you wouldn't go home and pray about it. He said, we just kind of freaked out about that. And you didn't do anything we said, but I want to let you know of all our clients. Now, this was in 2008, when Wall Street just wham, went down, everything went south, He said, you're the only one made money. And I just smiled at him. I said, why? I said, because, sir, I wasn't throwing away your information. Their information was good, but they didn't have that higher level. Because, see, God knows the future. God knows if gold goes up tomorrow. He knows if oil goes down. We don't know that, because Wall Street is fear and faith. Everybody selling stock believes it's going down. Everybody that's buying it believes it's going up. But see, God knows, not believes, knows. That's the difference.
This validates another point that I want to hit. 2 principles you've said here. One is it takes confidence to seek God. We know that,
right? Because
we have this scripture that says you have need of confidence,
right,
in order to seek God, right? To know that He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. Okay, a lot of people don't have that, Jesse.
Right. Well,
they don't have the wherewithal. How did you build that confidence?
Okay, let me show you how I did it. This is so simple. that you need a good theologian to help you misunderstand it. So you ready? Have you ever noticed, Ron, in all our dealings together as friends and ministers, that I always speak well of myself to myself? There's a reason for that. I learned that from Jesus Christ. He always spoke well of himself to himself. He said, I'm the door. I'm the good shepherd. I'm the way. I'm the truth. I'm the light. Now, you see what I'm saying? Now, of course, he's God manifest in the flesh.
Write this down, ladies and gentlemen.
So what I would do, I would look, now this is going to sound crazy, but I would look at myself in the mirror and I say, Jesse Duplantis, this is who you are. This is what you can do. And I would build myself up. You see, not trying to be arrogant. I was building my confidence. It's not cockiness and arrogance. It's confidence and assurance. That's the difference, you see. Now, people don't seem to understand. Oh, man, he's just bragging. No. Like, I'm a great giver. And I've done some things. People say, oh, he's just doing it to brag. Listen, man, let the elevator go to the top again. I could use that money in my pocket. Why would I put it in yours? One of the worst things
anybody who knows you to be a man of humility.
That's right.
And great honor and very real. I want to say that this is what I love about you. You and I can't hang around fake people. Right. We just don't get along with them. I want to hit another point that you said that was absolutely brilliant, Doc, was that what does it profit a man to gain the whole world?
Right.
You got Mark Zuckerberg's who's worth $50 billion.
Right.
The company's being assessed at a market cap of $1 trillion. Mm-hmm. And here there is a lot of people building off information. How important is this to build off revelation instead? Well, because at the end, Jesse, if we've got CEOs listening who are worth hundreds and millions of dollars, but at the deathbed, that appointment that every man has, how important is it to begin the confidence to consult God now for this measure of eternity that's coming?
Okay, here's my book of mine that I wrote in advance. Advancement must be a revelation that turns into an inspiration, produces manifestation.
I got that book here, right? This one.
That thing
Everybody grab this book.
What happens is it helps people to realize what they can do. You see, now the problem is when you know what you can do, even though you're not doing it, okay? Even though you're not doing it yet, it takes time to do these things. So when you understand that you can do all things, now you got to believe that. But you know what? I went past believing. I heard the Apostle Paul said, I know in whom I have believed. So I get past belief. And when I believe in something, brother, I'm like a pit bull. I bite down. You beat me in the head with a baseball bat. I'm not turning loose. Why? Because I know the end result. The reason why God never gets shook up, because he finishes, then he begins. You see, when you go up to him and say that, let me say, people think Jesus died 2,000 years ago on the cross. No, that was his physical death. The Bible said he was a lamb led to the slaughter before the foundation of the earth. So that's why he showed no fear at crucifixion. Fearless. Well, it's the same way in business. If you're a CEO of a company, are you proud of it? Yes. Now, what are we going to do with this company? Because let me tell you something about money, ladies and gentlemen. I've been rich. I've been poor. Rich is better. But it don't make you happy. But it does make you comfortable while you're miserable.
I love that saying. I was just about to say it to myself.
It's true. But it does not bring happiness. You know what brings happiness? When you get to a point in life and of wealth where there's a word called reciprocity begins to come into you. In other words, after you got whatever you think wealth is, car, clothes, shoes, jewelry, house, I don't know, whatever you think it is. Yeah. Now,
joy.
Now what we're going to do? I prefer to be a blessing. I love it. I'm not going to lie. I enjoy taking a company.
That about you.
Yeah, I enjoy taking a company and building it, but I'm building it for a reason, not so I can get more, so I can give more.
Give more. I love that.
You see,
you recently paid off a friend of ours' house that I know firsthand. She told me. Yeah. And we just laughed together. We cried together. That joy that you brought to her actually brought it to Tia and I.
Yeah.
That's that law.
And I've had so many people, I've done it so many times, churches, and people say, why do you do that? Why not? Because I can. But I remember, I remember when I couldn't pay off anything. But you know what? I didn't stay there. I didn't lose my momentum. I didn't lose it because if I had what I call a slow month, you didn't quite get all that came in. Wait a minute, baby. So my motivation may have waned a little bit, but my momentum did not. And
Didn't stop.
And just
Now,
go.
you've been known as the apostle of joy. I want to
Yes.
get in. We have about 15, 20 minutes left. I want to be sensitive with your time.
Okay.
But I want to elaborate on something that was a new medical breakthrough. I know you're a very cerebral man, and as a subject matter expert in cognitive development, I knew you would appreciate this. You've been called the apostle of joy.
Right.
And I've even developed behaviors watching you, learning how to smile when I'm unhappy, learning how to be kind when I'm angry. And, you joke about the Italians. I mean, you're talking real Italian here. We got the Easton bat underneath the desk, right? That's the old school. And I've really had to work on this myself, being short-fused and hot and being a type A personality like we are. But you've mastered something. And this is the spirit of joy. And we know that the joy of the Lord brings us strength. But I wanted to mention that the new medical breakthrough has proven that trust creates joy, Jesse.
Right.
Having a sense of higher purpose actually stimulates oxytocin in the body.
Right.
Just the same chemical secretion.
Right.
And I wanted to capitalize on chemically what you've done and how literal this can be for anybody.
Right.
As you practice joy, trust and purpose mutually reinforce each other. And that's what you said you did.
Right.
You trusted in God. You always tell me that. Trust in God, Ron. Not in the money, not in the buildings, not even in the vision, right? Trust in God.
Right.
But then you also reinforced it with purpose.
Right.
So tell us this. How does Jesse Duplantis shut down discouragement and depression?
I've had many opportunities to fail. I just don't take any. Now, I know that is so simple, but that's hard. That's hard intellectually. I mean,
mindset.
Yeah, I could accept that, but I said, no, I'm not going to do that. You see, one time we were in a discussion, me and some of the biggest preachers in the country. We were in San Antonio at John Hagee's church, okay? It was a wonderful day. It was a blessing. So we're sitting there, and they were talking about great donations that have been given to nonprofit corporations, whether it's church or whether it's the United Way or whatever, And so we're just sitting there, and so they started naming some pretty big figures, 6 figures and 7 figures and things like that. So I'm just sitting there, And John Hagee, he's the one that tagged me with the Apostle of Joy thing many, many years ago. He said, Jesse, what was your biggest donation? What was the biggest donation you've ever received? What's the biggest gift? And I looked at him and I said, trust. He said, what? I said, trust.
You mean the biggest donation that you gave or received?
No, received. See, they were talking about money that was given to them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I said, my biggest gift to me was trust. See, when somebody trusts you, you should never break that because you may never get it back. And if you do get it back, it may take a long, long time. So I trust in myself. I also trust in God. Now, one thing I want to say this, and this is a very simple thing. I am a businessman. But the worst thing you can tell me when I'm about ready to invest in a company is this. You can get your money back. What? You can get your money back. What? Get my money back. Well, my God, why don't I just keep it back?
You want to get 100X back.
You got it, right. I said, why do I want to give it to you so you can give it back? I'll just keep it back so I'll always have it back. You see, to me, that's setting yourself up to barely get by. No, I'm investing in something to produce something. See, when God created us, he made us producers. Right. He said, now go in the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Today, ladies and gentlemen, that are watching this, I preach to 2.9 billion people every week in 14 different languages. You may have seen me on television last year. They were trying to eat my lunch over jets. They said, Jesse Duplantis has 4 jets. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if I got 4 jets, I need to make a theft report because 3 of them are missing. And if I find...
I know personally that you don't. We talked about this.
I know. But people, they get jealous and envious. And that really will destroy your motivation and your momentum. So when I say
I want to say something to flatline this.
Okay.
Because if I walk out this door, San Jose International Airport is one of the biggest private jet, what do you call it?
General aviation, right. I understand.
In the world. And every rapper sagging pants is jumping into private change, throwing down that premium black card and saying, take me here, take me there. And I just want to say that the jet is a tool, period.
Right. That's correct.
And I love the fact that you fly private because that shows me that you're placing value on yourself for health, value on Kathy, your beautiful wife, your children, and your people. Jesse, am I right about it? And that's all it's ever been for you.
That is correct. And I
know that to be true.
And what the media didn't tell them, the jet that I have is a $20 million. I've given it away. I've given it away.
I know you are. I remember we talked about this. Should you sell it or should you sow it?
Yes, and I decided to sow it. And not that I couldn't sell it, you know what I'm saying?
Unbelievable.
But I realized that the value of a seed was greater than the value of a sale. Now, don't take that to the extreme, because I still sell things, you know what I'm saying? That's not the issue.
Yes, sir.
But what I'm saying is this: if you want to accomplish something in life, I tell people this, the preachers, CEOs, whatever, because I speak to a lot of different corporations as well as being churches.
Yes, sir.
I said, if you want to be a success in life and you want to help people, you find out what's the biggest problem in that community and you solve it. Wow. And I'm telling you, son, you solve it, then the world becomes your oyster.
Wow.
I mean, think about it. 20 years ago, I mean, nobody had no cell phones. You can carry the world around in your hand.
You got encyclopedias inside here.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I love that.
And so I love technology, and I want more of it.
You know, I'm sitting in the hub. I've begged God to move. You know this because we're believing God for a house out here. And I've begged God to move me to Texas. And, you know, God has told me and I want to elaborate on this principle you've reiterated over and over again. The congruent theme here is growth.
Right.
And Dr. Duplantis is showing you how he has grown over the years. It's come back down to a belief system, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
And his beliefs have altered his behavior. And on that note, I want to say that you and I have discussed the power of big thinking and big dreaming. And I've heard you mention how dreams bring prioritization.
Right. That's correct.
I love that, Jesse. Talk about that. Talk about the growth accelerators and the growth blockers.
Okay. The first thing, dreams have no expiration dates. You can get them at 9 or you can get them at 90. It doesn't make any difference. Because you see, when you dream, you're dreaming something you want, not something you need. Write that down. That'll help you. You see, you dream what you want, not what you need. You know, I never ask God for a need. My wife, Kathy, would say this all the time. Jesse, why do you never ask God for a need? I said, it's a waste of spiritual energy. I don't tell God what I need. I tell him what I want. Now, let's take that over to the business world. I'm going to give you an idea, or I'm going to produce a product that you want, not just need. Because, see, once you have what you want, it destroys all need. Need don't even come into your mind because want has now possessed it. And, you know, the Bible says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So that was number one. I had to find out, what do I want? Now, I'm going to say something going to shock everybody. You ready for this? You know why people need money? You ever wondered why? Because they don't know how much money they want. See? Think about that for a minute. Once you have what you want, you don't even think. I don't live from need to need in my life. You see what I'm saying? You know, I don't try to meet my own needs. That's the problem with that. See,
elaborate on that.
Okay, a man asked me, well, how much money you want? I said, $6,364,000,000. God puts that in my hands today, then I'm finished. You see what I'm saying? Either he gives me another idea,
which, by the way, is
home.
Another key. Every man has his number. Did you hear him, ladies and gentlemen?
I got my number. And that's called 14 satellites.
I got my number.
That's 14 satellites. That's 7 low orbit, 7 high orbit. Now, Elon Musk right now is trying to do that stuff.
He can do it, and so can you, and so can anybody else.
That's correct. It doesn't make no difference. Some of the wealthiest men in the world didn't have nothing, but they had an idea. Some of the wealthiest women.
I've actually talked to the Lord about Elon Musk personally. I said, Lord, what is the difference between him and some of these great kings? He said, limited belief system.
Yeah, that's right.
He said, he has not had religion corrupt. I'm working on other areas of his life, but he has an unlimited belief system.
Right.
And that's what you're teaching us that we need to develop.
Right.
Much like gleaming from the world system, even though we're in the world, we're not of it.
Right.
But we're gleaming from the nutrition of the world, correct?
That is correct.
Is that safe to say, Jesse?
Yes, that's a wonderful statement. I think of God like this. Right now, the universe is expanding faster than the speed of light. Watch this.
Yes, sir.
Light can't catch it. You know why? Because God's still thinking. God's still creating. You never stop, and you made in his image. You see what I'm saying? You made
He never stops creating.
Never. Well, you think of Thomas Edison, how many patents he had? 1,000 of them? Well, he could have stopped at 1 or 2. He could have done this. No, he just kept going. See, he just kept going. Now, J.P. Morgan figured that out. He said, Edison, is there anybody that can challenge you? And he forgot about Tesla. Tesla was brilliant. So, and he was doing DC current. Tesla had AC current, but they said AC current is too dangerous. Well, it may be in its baby form, but if you think you can take AC current and make it wonderful, well, what happens is they took the danger out of it, and now everybody runs on AC current. You see what I'm saying? Now,
wow, look at that.
You couldn't stop Tesla. Now, see, that's why Edison got messed up. You see, he got on cruise control, moving, but no
Another
longer.
important principle here.
Yes, you don't do that. See, you're
right.
ever increasing spiritually, physically, financially. Your love for Tia should be more tomorrow than it is today. Ever increasing, ever constant.
Okay.
That's the God effect.
Okay. Now you're striking a chord. Okay, because this is for Coach Ron. I've been meaning to ask you that. I was going to ask you this in our private mentorship, but it might as well make it public because 90% of executive males that I'm coaching who are running Fortune 100, 500, 1,000 have this problem with God. And I want you to answer this from your experience. First, tell me, how long have you been married to Kathy?
I'll be married to Kathy June the 6th of this year, 49 years to the same woman.
49 years. Now, tell us the importance. Now, listen to this, Jesse. Tell us the importance and the effects of thinking big in the space of marriage and the consequence of small thinking.
Okay, now, what I'm about ready to say, you're going to laugh at this. I just saw this I was in Honolulu, and I was doing the conventions there, and I saw a special with Carl Reiner, and on all the 90-year-olds, and Dick Van Dyke was there, and several of these, way in their 90s, you know, and
yes, sir.
The guy that did All in the Family, the producer, director, the producer. Anyway, they're all talking. The problem with a lot of these guys, they get real high, and then sex gets on their mind. And this is what the 90-year-old people say. I love this. I like the fella. He said, let me tell all of y'all. He said, you never lose interest in sex, but you do lose the power of it. I like the fella.
Things start shutting down.
Yeah, I tell people this, CEOs, we become too sexual in our thinking. A woman is
emotional. This is the emotional quadrant.
Well, a woman is not a sexual object to be conquered. Yes, there's sex in the marriage. Don't misunderstand. But see, if you're thinking like that, I mean, I heard the other day, and I don't know if this is true, that the head of Amazon is getting a divorce. Now, that's going to be an expensive one. But
big divorce. He going to knock himself out of the wealthiest man in the world.
Real quick.
132nd decision.
Yeah.
Knock him out of first place, right?
Yeah.
The book that I wrote.
That's what I'm saying.
That was the reason.
So now why? That is so silly, because the best friend I got is my wife. That doesn't mean we don't have arguments.
No.
That has nothing to do with that. So I want to love her more every day. She wants to love me more every day. And you do that with not relationship, fellowship. You become friends. You share each other's interests. I'll give you a real example. Years ago, my wife still likes, Kathy can sew. I don't know why. I mean, we can buy her any dress she wants, you know what I'm saying? But she likes to go to these, she likes to go to these stores where they got fabrics and patterns.
Fabrics, yeah.
Now
and the buttons and all of that.
Well, that drives me nuts. I'm not interested in that. But now I thought to myself, wait a minute. Maybe I might like this if I understood it. So, Ron, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this. Kathy didn't know. I left the office and I went to I believe it's called Hancock Fabrics, something. It's a store that sells
Hancock Fabrics,
and I walked in and I saw this lady. She said, can I help you? I said, yes. I said, listen, I'm going to ask you a question. How much money you make an hour? I said, I don't mean that to be rude. I said, because I want to pay you for about 3 hours. So she told me what she made. I said, I'm going to triple it. You are? Yeah. I said, I want you to teach me about fabrics. I want you to teach me about patterns. So I said, because there must be something about this that I'm missing, because this is boring. Well, I did. So I said, I knew come Saturday, we would be driving past that store. So Kathy goes, oh, look at that store. I said, you want to stop and go in there? Yeah. She said, yeah. Oh, you don't mind? I said, no. Now, when I walked in, that lady looked at me. I went, nothing. So Kathy stopped, and she said, oh, Jesse, look at this McCall fabric. I mean, this McCall pattern. You know what I did? I went, oh, Kathy, look at the yoke on this. This yoke is she lost it. Well, you know what? I mean,
you took interest.
Yeah, I shared her interest.
Beautiful.
You see? So that's how come we've been together almost 49 years. without thinking divorce in any way, shape, or form, because we share each other's interests. Now, let me go back to the business side. God gives you an insight to produce a company. He's interested in that. He's interested in you coming up with a technological idea. So you share it with him, he shares it with you, and it just grows.
There's a fellowship between you and him as well that's growing. Okay, now let's go one level deeper. In Malachi 2:16, it prefaces dealing treacherously with the wife of your youth. And of course, then it moves into one of the biggest foundational scriptures of the Christian faith, which is that of a tither, which has been a lot of the success of your ministry, which we don't have time for today. We all know that you're a philanthropist, a giver, a sower. And you've taught me that, and that's what's changed our company, be a giver. But this, Jesse, do you believe how you've honored your wife has made a significant impact on the growth and success of your ministry and organizations? And how big is this issue? Is it stopping the flow because the scripture's saying, hey, I'm not going to listen. The Lord is kind of saying, I'm not listening to you until you get this down, because you keep yelling, abusing, and then you've got these pornography issues, or you've got this with, all of that. How important is it to the wealth, Jesse, or not?
It's the biggest issue you can do. Let me tell you something. Well, let me tell you something. When people start splitting up, it's going to hinder that company. Investors are going to say, wait a minute here.
Look at Amazon.
That's my point. See what I'm saying?
Yep, you're right.
And it's a terrible thing. And so what you do is you stop those things by saying, wait a minute. I married this woman not because of her body, but because of who she is.
So you're saying that it's absolutely a deal breaker if you don't have this foundation in line.
Let me say this much. If me and Kathy get a divorce, it'll destroy this ministry. It'll destroy it. Because you see, people trust in you. Bob Hope, he loved his wife all his life. Notice that. Look, he became a very wealthy man. Why? Because he had a good married life. And I believe in that. Because you see, that is union. See, that's vision. And so you grow old together. So what's wrong with that? Think about that. See what I'm saying? And there's so much more you can do. And as far as pornography, that's so dumb and stupid. That's all fleeting. That's junk. You see what I'm saying? That's abuse to each other. A woman using a man using a woman, or whatever it may be. You see, and that's just ridiculous. But you see,
what does God think about it, Jesse?
He calls it sin. People say, I don't believe that. That don't change it. Just because you don't believe it, don't change it. See, it's sin. What it does, it puts dirt in your mind. It makes you not think the way you're supposed to think.
Counterproductive to a big thinker, isn't it?
That's right. Shuts it down. Because
covers the dirt over the growth that you're trying to accumulate.
Right. I mean, that's correct. See, when people see that you have that, they call that weakness. You see, they go, wait a minute, he's got a problem or she's got a problem. And that's ridiculous. Because you see, I don't care how good looking you are, your body's going to get old. You see what I'm saying? But your brain will never, if you keep it move. I read a lot. Kathy's grandmother lived to 104 years old, and she read probably 2 or 3 books a month. Her brain was perfect all the way to the end of her life. Why? Because she exercised it. You see what I'm saying? And that's what it's about. And her and her husband were married, I don't know, 65, 70 years. You see what I'm saying?
And that was the success, though, of his life.
That's right. And
this is very powerful because we know faith works by love.
Right.
And you've got so much operation by faith happening that's working for you, right? Which faith is a spiritual force. But if you're not in love, it's short-circuiting it. Is that what happens?
That's correct. Because see, God is love. It. Yes, you see, you love your wife for who she is, not what she can give you. See, not what kind of pleasure she can do or you can do. That has nothing to do with that. Because let's face it, you want to get on the sex thing. Let me tell you something. Women are controlling it all. Because I don't care how good you think it is. I don't care how good you think you are. If that woman says, boy, that was trash, I just put you in the dirt. You went in the dirt, buddy. You know what I'm saying? So it's just silliness. You see, silliness. You come together.
I wanted to come out of the mouth of a subject matter expert like you, an authority. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Duplantis operates in God counsel and wealth counsel.
Amen.
And because you have done this, Jesse, it's because you've got these principles
Yes, sir.
in place.
Yeah.
It hasn't come. As we wrap up, take us home with, if Jesse Duplantis could go back in his life and redo 3 things. I want to close off: personally, career and finance, a relationship to God. I'll hit them one at a time. That you could go back and do again. What would they be? Personally, start with that.
Personally, I wish I'd have hugged my mother more. I only hugged my mother once in my life. I hugged her at about 6 years old, and my grandfather looked at me and said, "We don't do that. We're men." No, I'm 6 years old. We wasn't allowed to show affection. It still touches me today. Hugged my mother one time in my whole life. How silly and stupid that is. You see what I'm saying? If I could go back, in fact, when I get to heaven, I think the first thing I'm gonna do is say, "Mom, apologize. I think I'm gonna hug you for eternity." That's number one. Now, number two, you asked me to go to what now?
Career and finances.
Okay, career and finances. I would say if I had to do it over, I would invest more and not walk in the language of hesitation. When I first started out, I would listen to people, and I missed some great opportunities. I mean, great opportunities. And I shouldn't have done that. You see what I'm saying? And for example, I had a friend of mine took me to drink some coffee, and I'm not a coffee drinker, but I went with him. He said, "I feel like we ought to buy this piece of property." Ron, it was only $3,000. He said, "I got $1,000. I had $1,000 on me in my pocket. And I had another friend named George. It was 3 of us, me. And he said, "Y'all want to go with me on this?" And it was a piece of junk land, terrible. I said, "What do we want with this?" I said, "Do you know something about this?" "No, nothing. I just feel like we ought to buy it." Well, we didn't buy it. Why? He bought it. Oh, Lord, I can make myself so bad. 4 months later, the state of Louisiana gave him $1 million for it. Gave him $3 million.
What?
I'd have made $1 million on a $1,000 investment. If I could do that, and let me tell you, he just passed away. And every time he'd see me, he'd go, That literally happened. Now, what's the third one you asked me?
Third one would be in relationship to God.
I would have more, somebody gonna get mad about this. I'd have more conversations with God than prayers to God. I believe in praying, and because praying is asking God, "Oh, Jesus, this and that." What I would do more is say, "Hello, Jesus. Hi, Jesse. Let's talk." You see, that's conversation. And you learn, and you know people by conversation. Friends are made. They don't just happen. You make a friend, see.
That's right.
I want to be, and I believe I am, like Abraham. He was called the friend of God. Well, let me just tell everybody, this is not arrogance or cockiness. I am God's friend. He likes me and loves me a lot. And that comes by fellowship, not just relationship. Hello, Jesus. Hi, Jesse. I do that every day in my life, and I would do it more. I'd have more conversations.
I love that, Jesse. Jesse, as we wrap up, finish this statement for me. What does the next 10 years in Jesse Duplantis' life look like? Where are you going?
Advancing at a phenomenal rate of speed. I'm gonna be 70 years old come July the 9th of this year. In 10 years, in fact, if I could, but the government won't allow me to do that, I'd like to give everything I have to only have one daughter, one granddaughter. But you get into a tax situation pretty bad. I would like to start over right now, because now I know how to do this. And I really believe in the next 10 years, if I just gave everything away and started over because of what God has placed in my mind, I would quadruple what I've done. I know I could do it. Not believe it, Ron. I know I can do it. So I tell every CEO, when you think that your company has peaked, that's really just the beginning. You need to go further than that. All you gotta do is come up with another idea. You see what I'm saying? You see,
ideas are the most powerful force in the world, like you said.
It's the greatest thing God ever gave us, the ability to think and to produce. And he sends these ideas into your mind. But if you don't act on them, nothing comes to pass. See?
Wow.
So
powerful.
Retirement is not in my DNA.
I was just going to say, does it look like retirement?
No.
70 years old, no golf courses. Huh?
No. I mean, while you hitting the ball, I'm thinking about making $1 billion. And I'll take that billion.
Yeah.
I'll take that billion and be a blessing. I don't need the money. I'll take it and be a blessing to people. That's what I do.
I love it.
That's
and
my
I
life.
love you. And I just love your spirit. I love everything about you. As we used to say back in the day, you know, Goombadi, right?
Yeah, I understand.
Like family. I
Thank
got
you.
your back. And I'm so grateful for you, man. I really am. You've changed my life, Jess.
Thank you.
You've really caused me to focus on the congruent theme of what life is all about. I could gain the whole world, but if I lose my soul, man,
Yeah. You're in
you know,
trouble.
what have I got?
Yeah.
And to deepen my love and my relationship with Tia and to love Jesus and to keep him as our number one advisor, we can't go wrong, can we?
That's right. You just said it. That's a book.
that it?
You ought to write on that. That's a book.
Okay. Will you do us the privilege and the honor by bestowing a blessing on all of our viewers in their companies, their marriages? I know people are hurting, Jesse.
Sure.
And before you do that, just remember, there's going to be a few links at the bottom of this page. Go to jdm.org. Jesse, is this the book out of these three that you said that they should get? Everyday Visionary, we have the Big 12. These are all great, but you mentioned advancing in life.
Yeah.
Is this a good place for people to start?
Yeah, because people need to start advancing. See, because let me just say
that's what you said.
Yeah, if you're not advancing, you're backing up.
This is it.
See, you're backing up. See, you have to go forward. That's that momentum, and brother, it will produce. Can I pray a prayer for your friends that are watching today? Father, Father, in Jesus' name, I thank you, Lord, for this discussion today. Lord, I pray for all these people that are watching, their businesses, their personal lives, their family lives. Lord, you've been so good to me. I can't thank you enough. I want you to be as good to them as you are to me. Now, I know, Lord, all they got to do is reach out to you. This is not religion, Lord. This is friendship. This is relationship. This is fellowship. Bless them in the city, in the field, going in and going out. Give them new ideas, insights, and concepts. The world needs this, Lord. And you've got these people that have the ability to think that way. And I thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
And we take it, right? We take it, Jesse.
Yes.
Not the faith that waits, as you said, it's the faith that takes.
Yes, sir. That's it.
Amen. Well, here's to advancing God's kingdom, your ministry. Visit jdm.com. Become a partner with Brother Jesse. Enact the law of reciprocity. Right, Jesse? That's what you did with Brother Copeland back in the day, Brother Hagin. You put it into fertile ground. And this has been the trajectory and the outcome of your growth. Yeah,
I wanted a television ministry, so I sold into Brother Copeland's and Brother Hagin's ministry. And all of a sudden, jdm.org came into existence. Isn't that amazing? Now people are doing that. And all my spiritual sons, I said, listen, every spiritual son I have, you must do better than me. If you're a really good father, you always want your children to be better.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So
I love it.
And so I put that in them. I said, come on, you can do this. I said, you know, and they receive it, both of them, ladies and men, and it's such a blessing. Thank you for allowing me to be on your program.
I love you, brother. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a safe week. We'll talk soon. I'll call you.
Okay.
Maybe I'll even see you in April, right? You got a vision conference coming.
Yes, sir. That's coming up. We're going to have a wonderful time.
What are those dates so everybody knows?
April the 11th and the 12th. It's a Thursday night and a Friday night and a Friday morning. Very simple. And the food in New Orleans is wonderful, so you can come.
But I want to have everyone see that beautiful artwork you got in the foyer and the vision that you built. Yeah. Right? Came under budget.
It came under budget.
Building it. All of that. Can people see all of that when they come?
Oh, they can come look in that church. They're going to be amazed. They got hand-painted stained glass in there. You don't see that anymore. They used to do that in Europe way back when. So I think they'll enjoy it.
I love it. Well, hopefully we'll see you then. Thanks again, Brother Jesse. Love you, man.
Love you too. God bless you. Bye-bye.
God bless you too. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a soft break right now as Brother Jesse gets situated. And we're going to let you kind of see behind the scenes. So stay tuned with us. We'll be right back. Move into session 2. I'm going to be talking about the laws of big growth and the barriers that come along with them, how to avoid them, but also the number one thing that Brother Jesse talked about today was the law of confidence. I'm Coach Ron Kardashian. We'll be right back. When you're hanging around people who are wise, and you know, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I bring on guests like this, because it's important to me to get the right information, and especially talking to people who have ultra success. Now, I want to start off with a congruent element. We've been talking about growth. We've been talking about big thinking. We've been talking about big dreaming. I want you to write this down if you're taking notes. Romans 12:2 is what Dr. Jesse Duplantis had mentioned through the whole interview process. He was saying, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is the acceptable and perfect will of God. I just absolutely love this. I mean, I cannot believe how powerful this proverb is. And you know what? It's absolutely changed my life. Now, the key ingredient in here that Brother Jesse talked about was confidence. And there's no way that you can have confidence except through the renewal of the mind. Now, I got a couple slides here I want to talk to you about developing internal confidence, because sometimes people don't know the scientific element of just how gifted you are. And if you're going to be a trailblazer, and if you're going to be someone who's pioneering, and if you're going to be someone who breaks the generational curse or the strongholds of your life, then you're going to want to make sure that you're thinking on a higher level. You're going to want to make sure that you have settled with absolute authority within you that I'm not giving up. I'm not going to be moved by what people say. And above all, I'm not going to carry bitterness or anger or resentment within me, because this is really important, ladies and gentlemen, really important. It's important that you understand that the way a man thinks or a woman thinks is the way they become. So if you're going to succeed in business, it's important that you surround yourself with people that are confident, but not just confident without God. This is probably what I have seen the biggest difference in Silicon Valley in coaching. Two different types of companies. One who live for a higher purpose, one who live with deep nobility and a deep respect, and ones who don't. That doesn't mean that they're not good people or that you're not a good person. Are you saying that if I don't have God, I'm not good? I'm not saying that. The Bible says only one is good, and that's God. What I am saying, you have got to make up your mind that I am not giving up, that I am going to push through this, and I'm going to stand on the authority of something bigger than myself. You see it? 66 books, handful of authors, handwritten notes. You know, as a businessman, when I look at the Bible, and of course, I try to live my life doing business by the Bible as much as I can. In fact, 100% of the time, the part I say I do it as best as I can is because Coach is still working on some things. And I think any person in ministry or anybody who says that they love God and says, there's really nothing wrong, and they kind of get arrogant about it, run. Because even the greatest of men and women are working on something. This develops humility, which is the first key that I want to talk about the trajectory of growth. I'm going to be breaking down growth factor principles here. What are the keys that Dr. Duplantis just talked about, and the keys that I'm using to coach companies all over the world, individuals and people? And don't forget, at the end, we're going to do a drawing. Someone's going to win a $1,000 gift certificate to be applied towards these algorithms that I have, these tools. I have these tools. Troy, you can go to the next slide. I have these tools that will help you understand just how confident you are. Next slide. I want to show them the brain here. But first, let me talk about growth factors. Now, you see this image here. Inside your brain, you've got billions of neurons. A lot of people have heard me minister on this before. I'm not going to stop talking about it, because once you really know what you've got inside you, it's going to be easier for you to build confidence. And I'm going to be bringing in Harvard Business Studies. I've got some studies from Yale here that I want to bring up. I want to really balance this with what happens to your brain when you begin to compromise. What happens to your body when you know that you shouldn't be treating somebody this way and you're doing it? What happens when you slander somebody online? What happens when you make decisions that go contrary to your will? Ladies and gentlemen, these are all growth killers. So we're going to be talking about this. Now, in the brain, you've got over 100 million neurons, as you can see here. These are digital connections that are called trees. We hear a lot of experts talk about this. But ladies and gentlemen, you have 100 billion of them. More than that. This number is so large, just to get this in proper perspective, that if I were to go from here to the moon and back, I would have to do that 13 times in order to equate how many of these digital connections that I've got within me. I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing. So I want you to say this with absolute confidence. I've got billions of connections within me. I've got hundreds of billions of connections within me. I have got everything I need within me to succeed. I've got everything within me that I need to succeed. So I will have people periodically say this over and over again because, you know, my early years as being a strength and conditioning coach, I get so excited about this because there's a law of growth. And that law of growth is when you apply pressure to the physical body and you begin to lift weights, the pressure actually tears the muscle and it builds back bigger. Well, for some of you, this is a revelation. Understand all the hell that you've been through, whether you're constantly attacked, whether you will do well for a while and all of a sudden something will come out of nowhere. This is where it's important you have the first key of humility involved, to not get over anxious or prideful, just to stop, just for a second. Begin to digitize. A lot of you have heard me go, begin to digitize in your brain. Begin to think, ladies and gentlemen, activate these neurons to say, okay, I need some help here. God, can you help me? Number one thing I do, God, I can't do this alone. Right when you say, God, I can't do this alone, automatically, ladies and gentlemen, there is a neurological connection that begins to happen in your brain. And this is a chemical process called serotonin. Serotonin then is a mood chemical in your body. You have two of them, serotonin and dopamine. And even as I'm speaking now, or as you speak to yourself, the parasympathetic nervous system within the body is what governs this. This is unreal. This fascinates and has basically validated my whole life work. And if you're a minister, you need to understand this about the law of double judgment. Now, listen to me very carefully here. If you are a leader in any capacity, CEO, leader, manager, and you are conveying your principles, your confidence, your passion with deep intention, there is a university study out at the HeartMath Institute that has validated when a human being speaks out of their mouth with deep intention, like how I used to get when I used to yell at Tia. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, if you can't admit some of your flaws, then everyone's going to think you're perfect. You can't help anybody. As I had to work on becoming a better husband, I would speak out of my mouth quickly. I'd be quick to speak. And the word of God is implicit about do not be quick to speak. You got to really practice these things. You've got to grow them like the muscle. I was affecting her DNA strand. Listen to me very carefully. The study revealed that when a human being speaks with deep intention, it is actually moving the DNA helix up and down and transforming it. This is neurological. It's unbelievable. And this parallels the study that was recently done in a Harvard Business Review. I have it right here on the brain and science. This is one of my most fascinating subjects. It says the brain can learn to ignore these distractions, making you more focused, creative, and productive. Well, I wish I would have known that 15 years ago because, you know, the whole saying, loose lips sink ships. I was sinking more ships than I wanted to sail. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, my ship set sail. How did we move into the abundance that we're living in now? We're still working on it, but how did we cross the barrier? How did we end the drama? I always say the answer is right underneath your nose. It's the law of growth. It says life or death, to grow or to decrease, is in the power of the tongue. Everybody misses this. Proverbs 18. It says, when you agree with something, you become one with it. Well, it's time for you to agree that there's life in your mouth and to begin to speak new life over your businesses, over your enterprises. I have my good friend and COO of one of my companies, Troy, who's monitoring my slides. You can move to the next one, Troy. But I always tell him, and he'll attest, you can even jump on, right, Troy, and let him know that I do this, that when I talk to you, I don't ever downgrade you, speak low of you. I don't command you. You know, some of you managers have to really watch your mouth. I don't tell Troy what to do. He is a bona fide professional that I have hired, and he knows the law of humility, and he knows the law of the spoken word. I speak life into him. I coach him from a space, and I coach companies from the space of strengths that you have more in you. Look at these connections than you do on the outside of you. You just need to take the pause for a minute and think before you act. And ladies and gentlemen, as I said earlier, this is the law of double judgment. You say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, the scripture is emphatic that if you are a teacher of the law, or you are a teacher of truth, or a manager or a leader that is conveying biblical savvy principles into somebody's life, there's double judgment on you. And I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, why would there be double judgment on me? And the first thing I came up with that I believe the Lord spoke to my heart was, you're responsible for you, and you're responsible for that DNA strand you just changed. So you can imagine speakers from the pulpit or from stages that are real hyped up. And that's why I try not to get very emotional. I try to be more abased, you know, because these neurons are, they're connecting with you. And I don't want it to be emotionalism. In fact, I get no crowd approval as I'm talking here now. It's a very different dynamic when you're coaching online. This is the concrete information coming out. And I believe it's part of God's vetting process. I believe you've got to practice and live what you're saying in order to create true transformation. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I've been coaching churches for, 20 years. And I get often asked this question, why isn't there any growth in my church? And I often go back to a saying years ago that I know the Lord God spoke to my heart. He said to me, there's no growth in the pew because there was no growth in the pulpit. You got the P's confused. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. He said, don't be so quick to jump into ministry. And as I'm coaching young men who are feeling the call of God, or young women who are feeling the call, be a great businesswoman. In fact, Troy and I know a lady right now who's built, we won't mention her name, Troy, but, and you can take that slide off and go back to me direct for a minute here. We know a lady who built a $300 million enterprise, very intelligent lady, very intelligent. She looked at Troy, who's online with us here now, my COO, and she said, you know, I'm shifting careers. I'm leaving. Now, watch this, ladies and gentlemen. She's at the top of her game. She has grown the organization. I'm trying to be careful here, Troy. She's grown the center. She's grown the enterprise. She has grown herself, and she's got indispensable job security. They don't want her to go. Tenured. She ain't leaving. She looks at Troy and she says to him, I'm leaving. And he goes, why? He said, Coach Ron, I couldn't believe that she was saying this. She says, because I feel, and I think you said she went to here, right, Troy? She went to her gut. She touched her stomach, which is very powerful, reaching. And I'll talk about that growth processes and confirmation. How can you confirm that this is the right decision to make? She went to her stomach and she said, or her heart, and said, because I'm feeling a higher call. I've got to pursue a call of God. I believe she said even a call of God. Didn't she, Troy? Troy's giving me a thumbs up. And he said, Coach Ron, I was blown away. And Troy at the time was not a Christian who works for me now, you know, but he got saved coming in. When you're doing business by the Bible and you meet good, that's why I said, don't ever judge people. It's a growth deterrent. Judgment is a growth deterrent. You're constantly cutting down things that you build up. And when we met each other, you know, I looked at the excellence of what he had already achieved. You know, when you're hiring professionals, if they've got a good disposition, they're educated, they're confident, and they're humble. This was the key to bringing him on in my organization, and it's been one of the best decisions I've made, ladies and gentlemen. This is what will help you understand, how do I grow my thinking process? It starts with thinking humble thoughts. For one, Coach Ron doesn't know everything. that I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly developing. I'm constantly have mentors in my life. In fact, I have 4 coaches. I have Michael John, who's been with me 25 years. I have a great man out of the Midwest you wouldn't know, Ford, who's coached my marriage. I've got a wonderful pastor in my life, Pastor Paul, who, gosh, I've been submitted under for 15, 20 years. Before that was another beautiful pastor who's no longer in ministry anymore, or no longer has a church. I stay very well connected to Pastor Bill Winston, who I absolutely love, who we talk as often as we can when he's not all over the world. But I have a financial coach who I discuss investments with, I discuss property with. And you know what that makes me? It makes me a well-diversified coach for my CEOs, for my leaders, for my executives. I was just coaching a couple the other day who's got a very large inheritance coming, and they love God, and they want to make sure that that money is growing. First key, as I've been saying for this whole time, is humility. And I really don't even need to go anywhere off that, because once you've got a humble heart, God can make it pliable. And once you begin thinking, okay, how can I increase? The first thing he says is, I want you to decrease. Ladies and gentlemen, this is so powerful. You know, early in those early years, when I was first developing this coaching protocol, I thought to myself, what are all the studies showing about the brain and what makes exceptional leaders exceptional? And, you know, we did these algorithms and these tests that I began to process. In fact, I have a screenshot of one today that I'll show you of an executive. And just to talk about this. And what we came up with was, over the last 25 years, the greatest leadership institutions in the world have given us this data. And you know what I find fascinating is Christian leaders and pastors, a few of the pastors, even that are on this webinar here, have gone through my coaching algorithm, where it actually discloses brain processes so you can find out where your confidence levels are organically leveling. And this is so powerful. It's like using a smartphone to send an email. You can actually send an email to your brain and have it spit out a right answer. I know I'm being funny here, but the point is that if you're not utilizing certain tools, you're not increasing growth. Let me rewind as Troy's getting that slide ready to show you. There are tools in the weight room, ladies and gentlemen, and most of you know that I'm a health advocate. Well, this week, 2 weeks ago, I came down with this little tiny itch in my throat, and forgive me because I've been coughing. But, you know, I looked at my wife and my kids, and they said to me, Daddy, you're never sick. And I said, and I never will be sick. I'm going to keep that away from me. I said, but, you know, and I looked at my 2 children, my little baby, I have an 8-year-old and I have a beautiful 14-year-old. And I said to them, you know, there's 4 parts of staying healthy. It's not just praying and believing and just expecting. You know, I'm a very powerful teacher on the law of expectation, but there's also proper sleep, ladies and gentlemen. There's also nutrition, and there's also exercise, nutrition and supplementation, and there's also exercise. And inside the exercise gyms are all these equipments. There's all these tools, how to sculpt the bicep and the chest and the legs and how to trim the stomach. Well, you can't expect the fat to just fade away and go away. You've actually got to use the equipment. As a strength coach and as ministers, understand that about you, that you want to increase the growth of your enterprises, you got to use the right tools. In fact, one is so powerful here. I want to let you see that the study on the brain. Let me explain this slide so you understand how to use the right tools in order to understand you. As I'm talking right now, it's extremely difficult for people to pay attention. In fact, we're going to cut it off pretty soon, and we're going to pick up in a couple weeks. We're going to do a live G7 event. I'm going to have on some other guests, but you only retain 3% of what I tell you. That's why it's important you take good notes. 3% of the brain is processing this, but only 8% of it is conscious. The other 92% is subconscious. In other words, your iPhone goes off, you can be shooting an email while you're listening to me. Or maybe some of you have clicked the link and you're seeing, how can I get on Coach Ron's programs. And if you haven't done that, do that, because we're offering everybody 50% off just on the conferences. I always do this for all my conferences, whether they're online or not. But you're doing other things. And that 92% is how you drive your life. Well, if your self-confidence is at an 8, 9, or 10 via these studies that we've shown, you are naturally self-confident. If you find it very hard to treat people kindly, watch this. You've got a very low ranking in conscientiousness. And I found something very powerful, not only through the Harvard studies, but from my own personal experience coaching and assessing the brains of hundreds of leaders, that when a conscientious person is active, the results are creativity. Think about it. You cannot be as creative as you want to be depressed. Depression actually kills it. And it's important for you to understand that. Absolutely important. The second thing is confidence, that we talked about it the whole time in this program. And I want to open up these notes here, that you have need of confidence. Hebrews 10:35 says, do not cast away or throw away your confidence, which has a great reward. So that when you have carried out the will of God, you would receive and enjoy the full of what was promised. In the Greek, that word confidence is hupomon, which means the characteristic of a man or a woman who is not swerved by his deliberate purpose and his loyalty to faith and graciousness. That rocks my mind, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely rocks my mind. And it goes on to say that this is a patient person, even though their greatest trials and sufferings have been present. This is a person of perseverance. This is a person of patience. And this is a person of continuance on waiting, consistent and steadfast confidence. And by the way, they add in cheerfulness. And for those of you who were not listening to Brother Duplantis, I had a new study here that I recently brought up on joy and the brain. I mean, this was so powerful. It literally talked about how when a person is in joy, it actually secretes the same oxytocin chemicals that help align purpose. So when you're asking me, how is the scripture made plain that says, I was looking for the study here, but I have it memorized. It says, how is the scripture made plain that says, hey, the joy of the Lord is our strength? Well, ladies and gentlemen, what happens is oxytocin begins to kick in and it aligns with purpose. So work on being confident, work on being kind. And that's why we use these assessments and these tools in order to find out where your levels are. Now, doing this for big companies, I found something very powerful. Here's a slide here of a CEO that I assessed years ago. And it's very powerful when you look at it. We're going to let Troy bring that up. I want you to bring up this slide real quick. Give him a second to pull it up. And I'm going to grab this notebook. Have you got it there, Troy? Because I want everyone to see this. I know we're taking a little bit of a pause, but hey, this is normal. This is the new wave of technology. See this slide here, ladies and gentlemen? It's very, very powerful, this performance tool. Now, when I assess this individual, as you can see, Troy, can you expand that for me into one quadrant? I think we have another tool. He had these 4 quadrants that we assessed. Well, if you see this black line through all of these, you can see that he was shark toothing on everything. And one of them was this quadrant. He had no self-confidence. He said to me one day, he said, Coach, you know, I've made $100,000, I've made $500,000, but I just don't have the confidence in me to make $1 million, to make $5 million. And he had investors and he had a marriage, and he talked about his parenting skills. He talked about, I don't have the confidence that I need to be a good father. And I thought to myself, these are all growth blockers. It was his way of thinking. It was his way of understanding. It was his way of talking. And I said, the first thing I want to do is say, well, let's see how tough-minded you are. Can you endure? And as you could see here in this quadrant here, I got a little highlighter in here somewhere. Don't I, Troy? I like to use that little highlighter. Anyways, you could see right here in composure how low this man was. He had absolutely no composure. And I said to myself, what happened in your life that decreased your confidence about yourself? And when we began this open discussion about this, ladies and gentlemen, it had nothing to do with his business acumen. It had nothing to do with his investors. In fact, he had $19 million in investment seed, not only once, but twice. They gave it to him 2 times, and he lost it all. When we began to talk, he was dealing with inferiority complexes within him, that issues that happened when he was a child. And I just want to take a time, Troy, you can get off this slide and just come to me full screen. I want to look at you right in the camera and say this, that the number one key to growth is to first ask God for help. You say, well, I know this already, coach. I already know what I know. I already been asking, but nothing's changed. The second key to growth is being humble enough to say, I need help. And that's what these conferences are. That's what your church is for. If you're not part of a local church, find one. If you don't have a mentor, get one. Our coaching company is going to be starting Wisdom Through the Bible series. It's an online coaching company, and I don't want to sell anything to you. I just want to let you know people are asking for tools, and we have the tools to help them, and you need to acquire the tools. If they're not from me, they've got to be from somebody, and this is very important. The third key to growth is consistency. This individual had no tough-mindedness, so he would start for a while, and if you've ever felt where you've started for a while and then stopped, this is the number one reason for complete business failure. You have got to have inner confidence. This is why Ephesians 3:12 says, I'm in him, and through faith in him, we can approach God with freedom and confidence. Remember, confidence is the Greek is hupomon, which is the characteristic of a man or a woman who is not swerved. He is not moved from his deliberate purpose and his loyalty to the faith and his graciousness. It's almost a tongue twister of his graciousness. By the greatest trials and sufferings, he perseveres. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, this is not some place that I've been my whole life. I have not been a man of confidence. I have had insecurities and fears, and I have dealt with anxieties and doubts and trauma. But I'm here to tell someone, God's getting ready to reach through the crevices of time and honor his word, because he said that no good thing will I withhold from those who love me. He said, be confident in this, Philippians 4:13, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to the completion until the day of Christ Jesus. In other words, he is going to honor his word. You say, Coach, it's been years. And I just want you to know that it's going to happen for you, but you've got to get around the right people. You've got to get around. Jeremiah 17 says, my confidence is in him. Get around people that have the same core values in you, which is the fourth key to growth. You have got to make sure that your values are lining up with the things that you're talking about. In other words, you can't live your life like a snake. You know, a snake has a split tongue. You can't out of one side of your mouth be blessing and on the other side be cursing. That's why this man wasn't going anywhere. He said, I just don't have the confidence to break through. Ladies and gentlemen, he ended up losing almost $40 million in assets and almost dying. He had leaky gut syndrome. Thank God I had a medical background. I was able to coach him in his medical side, which is a program that we use in our coaching company called Business Physiology, that the way you're running your enterprise is a lot of the ways that a healthy body works. Proper nutrition, proper sleep, proper exercise, and having a coach and a mentor in your life is that solution. And I want to inspire you to do it. So as we wrap up, there's a couple links at the bottom here. I have enjoyed this time so much. We're going to be doing more of these, but I wanted to just take the time for you to have the congruent steps on what it takes to be a trailblazer, on what it takes to be a real kingdom woman and kingdom man. Ladies and gentlemen, you finalize in your mind that this is the truth. and you treat people with kindness and graciousness, because remember, the parasympathetic nervous system and all those neurons that are firing are changing your DNA. And as you watch me and as you become part of what we're doing or part of what Brother Jesse's doing or your pastor or your coach or your mentor or your advisor, remember there is neuro mirroring going on. That's that fancy term for you're learning by listening and watching organically. It's literally transforming you. That's why if you haven't been transformed yet, if you haven't broke through, it's time for you to change who you're listening to. The buck stops here. If you're not producing, you're not growing, because growth is a byproduct of production. And this is the key. Grow comfortable with the process. You're going to go through it. It's going to happen. But here's the key. Here's the solution. As my book says, I got to show it just a little bit. 30-second solution. Get around people who have been through it and are positive, filled with life, filled with love. Spend a little money on yourself. Invest in you. You know, I'm going to say something publicly that I have not said from a pulpit yet. And because this is my own conference, I can say what I want. That we'll spend thousands of dollars on programs. We'll spend thousands of dollars on a car. We'll spend thousands of dollars and even give it to missions. And I want you to do that. T and I are heavy into supporting things like sex trafficking in the local church and feeding the hungry. Keep doing that. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're not investing into the soil of your own soul, what kind of message, what type of projection are you conveying to the world? What are you saying about yourself that, no, I believe in everybody else, but I don't believe in me, yet I'm wanting me to grow. I'm wanting to grow. Well, I got to put the right seeds in. Are you catching this? Invest in yourself. Invest in your company. As I was talking about with Brother Jesse, you know, we've started a company. I'm now the CEO of a company called Higher Technology, HIGHER. And, you know, we're asking investors to help us. That takes humility. It's saying that I don't have all of the nutrition I need. Will you help me? And, you know, T and I are the first ones to sow the first seed. I put it into ourselves. Why? Because I believe in what's in me. And when you believe greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world, your brain is hooked on getting right. Hence the word righteousness. So you're going to have me begin to preach now. But, you know, this is where your righteousness, the state of your righteousness must be settled. And ladies and gentlemen, just read it. It's right there in Romans 8, black and white. You know, as a businessman, I was going to say this earlier. This book to me, it says New Testament, which means contract. And I'm a businessman. And I help people review contracts all the time. If your word's no good, you're no good. We got his word on the matter, ladies and gentlemen. Settle it. That his word will not return to you void. This is the confidence that we have in him, that if we ask anything according to this will, it's going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be a lot of unhappy people come kingdom morning. I'm surrounded by it. They've built billion-dollar empires, now trillion-dollar empires. They're going to wake up to zero if you don't have the knowledge of Christ and the wealth that comes along with big business. This is the biggest government in the world. It's kingdom government, and it's an honor to serve in it. You don't become religious. Stay away from religion. Stay away from manipulation. Stay away from control. Stay away from controlling people. If they're talking bad about other people in front of you, they're talking bad about you. Kingdom people operate on a higher dimension. They analyze their thought process because they know that every thought, word, and deed is a seed. Make no mistake about it. He said it right there, black and white in Galatians. He said, don't be deceived. God will not be mocked. Whatever a man sows, that and that only is what he reaps. This is why I stopped talking about people, because it was counterproductive to the growth I wanted in my life. I wanted to be a good businessman, a good husband. I wanted to be, and I am a great husband. I am a great businessman. I wasn't always, but I'm speaking these things. I am calling these things that did not exist as though they already are. And this is the law of growth. This is the law of big business. And you know, one element that Silicon Valley has tapped, they know this. These business people know this. And if you're a business person who's never had God, but you're feeling the same call that this woman who built a $300 million organization, ladies and gentlemen, forgive me, because this chokes me up, and wants to walk away from it because she's feeling what we call a wooing in her spirit. She's feeling that there is something greater she needs to do with her money. And ladies and gentlemen, do not let anybody talk you out of your wealth, your success. You're called to be rich. You're called to help other people. You can't help other people unless you've got a tool to give them, a resource to give them, money to give them. And this brings such tears to my eyes, because if we don't have Christ, that beautiful Jesus, who gave us everything, the breath in our lungs, ladies and gentlemen, the eyes to see, the ears to hear, the heart to feel, the hands to touch. Man, what are we doing here? Are we just all about making money and building enterprises and fancy technology? This moves my heart the deepest. And this is the side that I said, God, just let them see who I am. Because at the end of the day, you cut me open and I just bleed gratitude. Man, that hits me deep. Thank God I'm not afraid to cry and be vulnerable, because I want to let you know that once it gets in you like this, money becomes a byproduct and it starts coming to you. This is the covenant promise of a holy God. He said, I swore I would bless you. So I want you to learn today from some of the greatest leaders in the world. I'm going to interview them all. I'm so thankful that they're all in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, I sought them. I went after them. I invested in them. I chose to grow. And a little Italian boy from the East Side, hooked on drugs, too many girlfriends, doing cocaine, getting drunk, just like Jesse Duplantis. There's no difference. If God can do it for a boy like me, change my life, make me a world advisor to leaders all over this world, and maybe one day, as a good friend of mine prophesied, even the President of the United States, I want to make sure that I'm doing everything in my power to honor God in every aspect of my life. Not a perfect man. I'm far from perfect. Far from perfect. And you need to get rid of that mindset in your heart. You don't need to be perfect. God's not looking for perfect people. He's looking for people who will pause. And I write about this in my book. Let me, if I can, if that's all right. I don't want to sell anything. I just want you to know these are tools. I write about the power of the pause, that it's a yield. That's what I mean by it. It's a yielding to the Holy Spirit, the governor of life within us. Man, I can't even talk normal about this. It's unbelievable how powerful and truthful this is. And once you get it inside you so deeply, the convictions of your heart will keep you safe and confident. And this is the number one leadership key. These two, confidence and conscientiousness, because if you're so confident, you could be, leaders are either two things, right? They're either climbers or crawlers, I call them. And climbers will just climb right by you. Crawl is people slowing down a little bit so they can walk with you, or a connector. A crawler is a connector. You're either a climber or a crawler connector is what I call it. That you're either, and it's okay to be a climber, but you don't ever not want to be a connector. How can I help you? How can I help your business? How can we pause for a minute? Let's analyze everything from fiscal responsibility down to your physiology. No other coaching company in the world is doing what I'm doing, and I'm confident to say that. And now we're building tools to better help you. So if you want to take advantage of them, click the link down there. You'll get a 50% off. All of you guys who are interested, 2 coaching session package. If you and your church or your company want to bring us in, I'd be honored to come speak, coach your people, leave the Christianese out. But I just wanted to let you know who I am, and I'm not ashamed. I used to be ashamed. That's because I got so persecuted. But let me tell you what the persecution does to you. It crushes you, and it makes you a better person. So I want to encourage you, don't grow bitter, ladies and gentlemen. Let these conferences make you better. And as you think better thoughts, you will act in better, more elegant ways, and you will treat people with better attitudes and better outcomes and produce a life that you never imagined. I'm Coach Ron Kardashian, and this is G7 Growth. God bless you. I look forward to hearing from you. Email me, connect with me on all the social medias, and click one of those links today to take advantage of the wonderful gifts that we want to bless you with. Thank you. And my staff, someone's waving at me to say that they have drawn a winner, so you will be emailed. They draw two winners. The two pieces of paper came out at the same time, so we're going to be giving away $2,000 gift certificates. If you end up buying one of the coaching packages, we'll just apply it to it. So don't wait, because it's only going to be for a limited time. I'm Coach Ron Kardashian. I love you. I bless you. I pray for your companies. I pray for your businesses. I pray for your money. I pray that God will increase you more and more, you and your children, and that everything that you touch will be blessed, that there'll be a deeper purpose on your money. It's not just money, but money with a mission, that you will actually lay claim on it and say, enough is enough. I'm a good person. I know to do right with wealth, but I am not playing this money game anymore. It is over. I can't help myself. I'm depressed. I have too much anxiety. It's over. It's time for me to receive what's rightfully mine. I bless that initiative and that confidence in you, and pray that you would have the strength to seek out the right help and to pursue your dream until it comes to pass. This is my third time I'm trying to get out of here. I want to be sensitive with your time. Connect with me on all the socials. We'll pick up the conversation later. I'm Coach Ron Kardashian. Thank you for joining the broadcast. God bless you.